Still though, if I have to be honest with myself, I can't help but, yeah, feel a little bit disappointed. Is it my nostalgia that really made me enjoy this, or was the story told just that good? I felt like this was good, but it could have been so much better. It could have been so epic, a la EXU Calamity. But they kind of just, like, maybe left it halfway done, it almost felt like. Ukatoa! Ukatoa. That's right, guys. Welcome back to Fraud on the Telly. Today, we are breaking down everything that happened on Critical Role Return of the Mighty Nine, Part 2, where our cast faced off in an epic confrontation with Ukatoa, the Great Leviathan. As always, if you enjoyed the video, learned something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring that tiny bell so my videos go directly into your feed, and want to check out some of our other Critical Role content. Let's get right into the video, shall we? Our episode begins with, you guessed it, combat as the giant storm giant, as well as the mage in its hand, look to free Ukatoa. The giant rushing forward, destroying a huge section of the top of the temple as the mage jumps down. Battle rages. The cast does a really good job here of managing this combat, not really taking much damage at all. A bunch of the cast members jumping down, following the mage down into this temple that we learn, I was correct, is a temple of Zahir. As we know, Zahir was one of the betrayer gods, the betrayer god that actually created Ukatoa, and then obviously Ukatoa betrayed it once Zahir was imprisoned post Calamity. The followers of Ukatoa taking over a number of Zahir's temple, corrupting it for Ukatoa's own use. Eventually, the entire party falls down into the depths of the temple, eventually killing the storm giant, as well as dramatically killing this mage. But the small cloven crystal has gone missing. Matt decides to bring in a bunch of these random fish NPCs that he had kind of pushed off the board earlier. This move here, I saw, tilted a bunch of people in chat and a bunch of viewers. So basically what Matt does here is a bit of railroading. He gets these fish people, brings them all into the board once they're down in the temple, and has them all frantically search, one finding the crystal and then running over, smashing the crystal into place, freeing Ukatoa. Then, to make matters even worse, he just goes ahead and just takes all the fish people off the board, saying that the Mighty Nine would have an easy time dismantling them. Now, when this first happened, I'm not gonna lie, it definitely rubbed me the wrong way, but after a few minutes, I eventually kind of got over it. While it was a bit ham-fisted, railroading is to be expected, especially in a setting like this. We're gonna have to remember, guys, this is a one-shot, a two-part mini-series. Certain story beats had to be hit. Railroading in situations like this is just bound to happen. The only reason why I think a lot of people are upset is this wasn't a very subtle bit of railroading, but that's really not Matt's fault, as the cast did a good job in attempting to prevent the freeing of Ukatoa, but this had to happen. The ultimate payoff is the fight against Ukatoa, so Ukatoa had to be released no matter what. We've done several videos talking about railroading in D&D and in Critical Role, and generally, it's not necessarily a bad thing. EXU Calamity is a perfect example of how Brendan uses railroading, very subtle railroading to hit certain story beats that he wants to hit to tell the story that they want to tell. Right? But I do understand why some of the fan base was upset by this, but like we said, it was just a little ham-fisted railroading that unfortunately Matt was forced to do. With Ukatoa released somewhere in the Lucidian Ocean, suddenly things start getting weird in Zahir's temple as one of the snake statues comes to life. Yes, that's right, the betrayer god Zahir himself has appeared. A random betrayer god has appeared, and he wants answers. This was a really cool interaction because Zahir is one of the betrayer gods that I think we know the least about in totality of the betrayer gods. Zahir wants some answers, and answers he gets. He thinks that the party were the ones that actually were freeing Ukatoa. They explain that no, they are the ones trying to prevent it. Zahir says that he is willing to offer aid in the constraint of Ukatoa, as Zahir basically is one of the only ones with the power to reseal Ukatoa. Remember, Zahir was the one who created Ukatoa. The only problem is, in order to Zahir to give these powers, they need to make a pact. Kingsley steps forward first in classic Kingsley Taliesin fashion. Definitely saw this coming, but ultimately Ford decides to take the responsibility, making the pact with Zahir, receiving a brand on his chest. Now, this is pretty funny from Ford because we have to remember he is a warlock of Ukatoa, a paladin of the Wild Mother, and now has a pact with a betrayer god who has great disdain for the Wild Mother. Yeah, this was kind of a funny little series of events, and part of me kind of wondered if the Wild Mother would be exactly pleased with the actions that Ford has taken. But hey, what's done is done. Ford receives a sword, a rapier, as a boon, making this pact with Zahir. Known as the Fang of the Spider King, it's revealed to be a legendary blade. At first, I thought this might be an arm of the Betrayer, which would have been hilarious to see Ford with a vestige, by the way, one of the best vestiges, in my opinion, and then we're to have an Arms of the Betrayer, but it's not. It's just a good legendary weapon that he decides to give to Kingsley. The party now are in a rush to stop Ukatoa, which, like we said, is free in the South Lucidian Ocean. They teleport back to Nick Odranis, attempting to gather their forces and intel. They learn that a bunch of ships are mobilizing throughout this coast of Wildmount and the islands in an attempt to figure out what's going on with this massive storm that is brewing out in the ocean, a storm obviously caused by the Titan, the Great Leviathan Ukatoa. Eventually, they manage to get a ship, a captain that is a repeat character from Vox Machina from Campaign 1, a character that I completely forgot about, if I'm going to be honest, and they sail out, taking a long rest. Now, it's unfortunate that this game was only 2 parts. I understand why, but man, did it have the potential to be a much bigger epic arc. Remember that Ukatoa has a pact with 2 other lesser deities, 2 other titans, which they will release one another if one of them gets free. So it's a bit unfortunate that Ukatoa is released for a good, 8+ hours, but it doesn't make any efforts to release these other titans, which would have made for a crazy mini arc, and it almost makes me wish that this was done in Campaign 2. But nope, alas, here we are. And the ships head out deep into the storm to face off in this massive battle with Ukatoa. I love the vibes that Matt gave off here. Ukatoa really is one of the more scarier of the baddies, I think, throughout the world of Exandria that he has created. And the battle map did an awesome job of setting the mood. Just look at this insane Ukatoa mini. Super awesome. Really gives scale. And yeah, they're fighting Ukatoa in the water, which could prove for a bit of a problem, but they take care of it by casting Walk on Water on everybody. The battle with this epic titan has finally begun. Caleb turning himself into a blue dragon, Ukatoa summoning a massive tidal wave that berates the ship. This battle was pretty epic. Normally, I'm not the biggest fan of D&D combat, especially long extended combat episodes like this. I mean, we had 2 combats in this episode, both multiple hours long, and a lot of times, I don't know, I feel like you don't have to pay as much attention to D&D when you're watching combat as opposed to when you're watching roleplay. So yeah, generally I don't really enjoy D&D combat that much unless there's like 1, really high stakes, potential for death, or 2, the combat is different from your standard 5e everyone takes turns hitting each other until something eventually dies combat. The party do really well, in my opinion, because this combat seemed rather difficult. We don't know exactly what the stats are of Ukatoa yet, but the combat seemed pretty intense. A lot of the party members coming eventually low, but Jester makes a massive move, casting mass heal through her several duplicates which she had summoned, which basically multiplies the spell, giving her a total of 700 hit points to distribute throughout the party, basically healing everyone, if I remember correctly, to full, resetting the battle, almost guaranteeing their victory. Huge moves and props by Jester. This is character growth at its finest. Remember, Jester was the cleric that just refused to heal throughout Campaign 2, making for a pretty great meme. Jester literally Moira from Overwatch out in Campaign 2, but now she has redeemed herself with a massive heal, a heal that definitely saved the party from at least one potential death. From here, the combat is pretty straightforward. Eventually, the group get the dub. Uk'otoa sinking down into the bottom ford, giving chase, using Zahir's seal to seal it away as 3 of these cloven crystals float to the surface, Ford grabbing them, and our story is over. Our characters each get a brief epilogue, Ford deciding to keep one of the crystals, hiding another one somewhere, possibly in the mountain where Vokodo lived, and giving one to Bo to keep safe in the Cobalt Soul Library. Kingsley in his epilogue talks to Cad, eventually becomes a pirate and a captain, apparently becoming the Plank King within a year or two, and lifting the ban on the Mighty Nine for Darktoe. Jester starts an art studio, Not continues working on her camp. Bo and Yasha live a happy life together, as well as Caleb lives a happy life, eventually becoming a teacher at the Solstice Academy and continuing his relationship with Essex. This was a fun little mini arc, but I can't help but feel a tiny bit let down, but maybe that's just because, like we said in our prediction videos, a lot of this was very predictable. The best part, in my opinion, through this whole mini series, besides the intro bit, the first hour-ish in the first part where we kind of got to see and reminisce about our characters once more, and we got a lot of interpersonal roleplay, was the part with Zahir in the temple, because we finally got a random betrayer god appearance speaking with our party, which is awesome. I love the deep lore in Critical Role, and so that was definitely the best part for me. Besides that, it was just filled with a bunch of combat, which was relatively pretty predictable. Only one time it really felt like anyone was actually afraid of dying. And so, yeah, ultimately I enjoyed this. It's always fun to see the Mighty Nine again, but I can't help but feel like if they would have not limited themselves to 2 episodes with this and would have really kind of fleshed it out, we could have had for a much more fulfilling and interesting story here. It sucks because I kind of feel conflicted inside of myself where I can't know if I enjoyed this purely for nostalgia reasons or if it was really that good. It was good and it was fun to have the Mighty Nine back. You can tell that the cast really enjoy playing the Mighty Nine. It definitely feels like that's probably their favorite characters to return to, and possibly the campaign that had the biggest effect on them as a group, which would make sense because the dynamic of that campaign from start to finish and the growth of these characters ultimately becoming this big happy family is quite a compelling story. Still though, if I have to be honest with myself, I can't help but, feel a little bit disappointed. I mean, we took 2-week break plus from campaign 3 when it was just started getting juicy for this, and while I'm glad that we wrapped up the Uk'otoa arc, as like I've said many times, Ford is one of my favorite characters, and the Uk'otoa arc was one of my favorite parts of campaign 2, and it sucked how it just kind of got just left there. And while this does tie a bow over it, I can't help but think that while it was good, it could have been so much better and so much more. If you're going to take the time to take a break from campaign 3 when it just started to get good, and they've already taken copious breaks from campaign 3 over the last year and a half since its start, you might as well just take a whole month off and give us 4-episode goodness of this a la EXU Calamity style. I don't know, at the end of the day, I enjoyed this. It was fun, but I couldn't help but think that it just could have been better. Like I said, I can't help but feel, is this some kind of a nostalgia grab? Is it my nostalgia that really made me enjoy this, or was the story told just that good? Don't get it twisted, I enjoyed this, and I had a lot of fun watching this, but when you take it into kind of a bigger context of Critical Role media, especially when you realize that they're giving us this instead of Campaign 3 content, it just starts to become a bit frustrating. I hate being negative when it comes to Critical Role, but at the end of the day, guys, I just want to be honest with you and give you my thoughts in how I feel. And yeah, right now I feel just maybe a tad bit let down. I felt like this was good, but it could have been so much better. It could have been so epic, a la EXU Calamity. But they kind of just like maybe left it halfway done, it almost felt like. It felt kind of rushed. It felt super predictable. I am glad, though, that Matt gave us the little Zahir nugget there. But even that, though, felt like it was almost a little forced, as at the end of the episode, the Wild Mother removes Zahir's mark from Ford, potentially and presumably breaking Zahir's bond with Ford, which kind of takes all repercussions away from any of this these events playing out. At the end of the day, though, I still enjoy Critical Role and much of their content, and even a mid-Critical Role show, I guess I'd say, is still a pretty good one when you compare it to the broad aspects of a lot of D&D streams. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. How did you feel about Critical Role, the return of the Mighty Nine Reunited, finishing off the Uk'otoa arc? Personally, I enjoyed it, but for an arc that I loved so much from Campaign 2, it just felt like it was kind of short done. It felt like it could have been so much more, and while it was good and while it was epic, there were just parts of it that just felt like, I don't know, it just felt like kind of a cliff note, a wrapping up of a story that deserved an ending that was just so much more, in my opinion. As always, if you enjoyed the video, learned something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring that tiny bell so my videos go directly into your feed, and don't forget to check out some of our other copious Critical Role in D&D content. As always, guys, I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Peace, love, Adu.